Is this live? Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Oh, okay.
We're rolling.
Go.
Yeah, you don't have a good theme song.
Oh.
No, well, no, it'll play it.
We try,
over
but
top
it's
of you.
copyright. But I mean, imagine you had the Johnny Carson theme song, right?
Wow.
Okay, go.
Yeah, just give a.
Here he is. Wait, how did it used to start? I can't hum it, right? It's against the.
Listen, Joe. By the time we started watching TV, Johnny Carson was off.
That's true. I'm showing my age, aren't I? And now here's a slightly serious.
It can't be the exact melody, but it can.
Okay, go, Joe.
And here's a slightly serious sign what is it? Oh yeah, the Slightly Serious Sign podcast, starring Mike Hull with a sidekick Tyler. And today's guest is Domingo and Joe Morreale from Roland.
Wow. This is the best.
And now here's Mikey.
Hey, we also. You might be hired, Joe. You got his side gig. That's pretty good.
That's a good side.
We did want to say we're voted #1 podcast in the United States by Roland, specifically Joe Morreale. So,
I hear you guys hit this milestone, 1,000 viewers or
YouTube subscribers.
All right, that's like a big deal, right?
Yeah. Well,
we're getting some ratings here.
It's been probably a week. We'll probably be at like 1,100 by the time this airs. So we're cruising along pretty good.
That's fantastic.
What you think people are going to stop watching us now? Domingo's back.
Well, ask Domingo how we got to 1,000 subscribers.
You know, it's an interesting story because Tyler said we're at 999. And I'm like, all right, I'll just go home. I'll log on. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've already logged on.
So,
hey, Grayson. What? It's my son. Hey, Grayson, what are you doing? Nothing. I said, hey, I need a favor. Can you log on to YouTube and subscribe to Wensco.com? Okay, I'll do it.
Boom.
1,000.
Oh, so now you hit 1,000, Dad. What do I get?
The joke was that if you've ever seen people like live reacting to them hitting a milestone, you can watch the live YouTube tracker and you can see the numbers going up and up and up. The joke was that I was watching the live tracker, but we were at 999 for 8 hours.
So I had my son sign up for the 1,000.
Take you over the edge.
I had someone do it so I could watch it hit 1,000. So.
Nice.
So anyways, yeah, we appreciate you guys watching on YouTube. So
keep watching on YouTube, please.
We didn't lose you guys now.
Watch the video feed. And Don Long, I know you're listening.
Where can we see the video feed, by the way? Where do we see that? YouTube? Or?
YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube.
Yep.
There's we release 2 episodes every week on YouTube. There's an audio-only version and then a video version. If you go Monday morning at like 6 a.m., the video version's not out because Rick has to upload the video version.
Okay.
So it takes a little bit. So
all
like
right.
9, 10 o'clock in the morning, wait around. It'll be there. You can watch it. So
I schedule it now.
Oh, now apparently we schedule it. So 9 a.m.
So, every Monday about 10 a.m., Don Long calls me and says, I can't find the video version. I have to send him the link every week. Don, figure it out, buddy.
Don, there should be a playlist now if Rick and I have it figured out. If you just go to Wensco Sign Supply's YouTube, go to playlists, there's a video version of the playlist, and you could just go to the latest episode from there. So it should also be the latest upload, but sometimes YouTube doesn't want to show you that, so just go there. It should be there. But anyways, Joe, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for doing that awesome intro. This is by far the longest intro we've done yet.
Fantastic.
So Joe Morreale from Roland, if you guys didn't catch that already, joining us. We just kind of want to talk about, there's a lot of different printer options in the market right now.
There certainly is, Tyler.
A lot of different technologies in the market, even just from Roland. So we kind of want to talk about what are the differences, what kind of works for most people, or what should they ask in terms of that to find the right piece of equipment.
Are we going to start with the background, though? We got to start with Joe's background, right?
That's what I was going to say. We need his background first before we get into the deep dive.
Come on,
Joe,
Tyler,
tell us
get with
about
it.
yourself.
Well, I'm glad you asked.
How'd you start?
I had no idea you were going to ask that. Wow. Let me think about this for a minute. Oh, well, actually, it's. I was thinking about my background. It's like, wow, it's been 40 years in the sign industry. Not to date myself, but wow.
That's a long time.
And it's been a fun ride and still having fun doing it. So I started off at your Sign Supply Soul Brothers over at Monterey Sign Supply in the West Coast back in the 80s. So it was kind of interesting. I started there in 84. And in 85, they became a Gerber dealer. You know, you've heard that name.
I know Gerber very well.
So it's like, yeah, it's interesting. None of the sign sales guys wanted to get involved with it. It was very novel. They thought it was a fad, right, back in the day. It's like, I saw this. I was a young, pretty young guy. It's like, wow, this is a disruptor. I want to be part of this. So I started selling Gerber Sign Maker 4Bs back in the, around 85, all through the 80s. I was selling Gerber equipment when it was really disrupting everything. So that's how I got into this. And then around 1990, I got involved with a company called GMI, Graphic Materials International, and they made this special Gerber punch, because remember, Gerber used to have that punch pattern. I'm sure they still do, right?
They do.
And I was involved with them for about 3 years, so I got a little media experience. And then around 93, I joined CADLink Technology Corporation. They made, a product that a lot of people still use, Sign Lab. I still use it. Sign making software, and did that for about 4 years. And then I joined Roland. That was back in 97, so it's been 27 years at Roland. And I love it. And so it still feels fresh, and it's just amazing to be part of all the technology since the beginning and watch it all evolve. So that's the history.
Yeah, it's very interesting how you could go from one manufacturer to the other manufacturer, and then you start to grow and start to get more knowledge in different types of areas. But to me, it was, when equipment came out, it was like when the Gerber came out, it was different technology. Then, you came out with latex, and then you came out with other kind of, the train keeps moving.
Yep.
As they say.
Yes.
So either get on the ride or get off the ride.
Exactly,
in this industry.
Domingo.
Because it changes every 6 months. And that's why we have these shows. And it's kind of interesting to say, okay, what's new out there? What's coming out? So...
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you're not paying attention to what's going on, you can get left behind. We have Steve, one of our sales reps, will always joke that when a new printer comes out, he'll basically, as soon as he sells the first one, he just tells all of his other customers that this first customer bought one. Like, yeah, you better move on. This guy's already got the new one. And they're like, oh, shoot, I got to get the new one. And that's kind of a joke. But the reality is, you can definitely get left behind. Like, if you're not having looked at new equipment in a while, or you've just been comfortable with where you're at, you might find that you're leaving money on the table for yourself and for your customers, really, if you don't have the right stuff. So
that's why we say go to the shows too, because you might not be looking for equipment, but you're going to know what everybody else has or what's possible. That's why you should go to the shows. We have a demo day coming up. We should come to our demo days. It might be airing about this time, won't it?
About the same time, yeah. So it'll be close.
So
just to stay current,
just to stay current. What does your competition actually have or could have? So
a perfect example is the rollover table. I mean, time. I mean, if you got one guy applying application tape, and that's what you do for quite a bit, I mean, this is a huge time saver. But some people don't see the machine, don't go to the demo days, don't come to open houses and see this equipment.
And a lot of times you're not looking for something, but it sparks an idea, or there might be a new, idea for business to add to your business that you would have never even thought about until you saw the technology and the light bulb goes out, right? So, yeah, you definitely got to show up at those open houses and the trade shows whenever you can, for sure.
So I guess that leads us to your question.
Yeah, so talking about the new stuff that we've seen come out, at least from you guys, but there's a few different ink technologies. Can you kind of explain what ink technology Roland's offers and what the differences are between them?
I'm glad you asked, Tyler. The great thing about Roland is the strategies. We have it all. So we've got EcoSolvent.
Joe, come closer to your microphone.
Closer to the mic. Sorry, I'm not as seasoned as you guys here.
Yeah.
We have EcoSolvent, which is what we're really well known for. And we also have a whole line in our TrueViz line where we do curable UV, and we also have UV flatbed printers, and we have latex. So we have every solution. So it's really about having what every customer might need depending on their applications. That's our strategy. So nobody else is really doing that I know of that has it all.
Yeah, they're kind of specializing in one specific area and pushing that way. Just talking in terms of the sign shops, if they're looking at all those options out there, right? They go to Roland's website and they're looking at all of them, and it's like, okay, how do I know?
Yeah, it's confusing, right? You just check out all the printers, like what's my fit? It's all about what you do, right? I mean, that's the first question I ask. What kind of signs are you doing? Are you doing vehicle wraps? Are you doing floor graphics? Are you doing banners? Are you doing apparel? Every technology has its place.
So what do you lead with, I guess, if you're trying to figure out what equipment should I start looking at, I guess? What are kind of your leading questions besides what you just mentioned?
What kind of signs are you doing? You're doing vehicle wraps. Well, maybe latex is a good solution, the Roland AP640, which is a superior latex solution to Brand X, by the way. And we can get into that if you'd like. Or we have EcoSolvent. That's a great place to be if you're going to do vehicle wraps. If you're going to do floor graphics, I'd probably want a print and cut machine, although I could do it with a latex as well. If I'm doing apparel, well, that's a whole different ball of wax, right? I probably want to stick to Echo Solvent or get into DTF, which we also do that type of technology. So, if I'm doing labels, let's say I'm doing you have shops that do labels, right? I want to have a print cut machine, and I probably would want to take a look at your curable UV solutions like our MG or LG TrueViz printer cutters. Architectural signage, well, that's a flatbed application, really. And we've got benchtop products like the MO240 that we just came out with, the Versa Object, and the CO series, which is soon to be the COI series. Flatbed products, Versa Objects. So it all depends on what you're doing. I always really just try to probe what does the customer want to do and what are they doing, and try to fit them into the right technology, because we've got a whole palette of offerings.
Do you feel that the certain customers choose Roland because of their space, because they don't have enough space in their building?
There's some of that with the print and cut. Let's say you had a sign. Oh, get closer to the mic, Joe. Sorry. If you have a sign franchise and you're in a retail environment, that's one of the great things about Roland is we have the integrated print cut technology. So instead of having a separate printer and cutter taking up all that space, it could be combined into the same footprint space. But of course, we offer all the solutions. But that is definitely one consideration for many sign shops with a short space and so forth.
Yeah, I see a lot of sign shops start with that, and then they grow to get bigger spaces. Then they kind of venture out to get a cutter separate and then a printer, and then they just start pumping out production.
Yeah, I think the underutilized part is you don't touch it again either. Like, you're not pulling it out, trying to put it back in, trying to roll it back up, trying to put it back in the cutter. It's just, you're taking it out one time. And I think that's underutilized, because that's what I would like. I don't want to touch it. I want to just, hey, it's going to go. It's going to be done. I don't want to pick it up, put it over there. And then,
especially if you're not laminating, to be able to do it on one device and not, have as a user to intervene between printing and cutting, just hitting the button to let it go and it's perfectly registered. That's pretty powerful.
Yep.
What I find is, I think we talked about this on one of our other episodes too, but what's funny to me is when someone gets their first Roland, right? And they're like, I want a print and cut device. I want all in one, right? And they'll get that. And then later they'll be like, okay, there's a bottleneck. I'm going to get a separate cutter. And then they go to upgrade again. And do they get a print only device? No, they just buy another print and cut device, because they're like, it's just better to have it, right, than not have it. So we laughed at you'd think you would go print and cut separate and then get a print only device. But most people, I think once they get so comfortable using the Roland the first time, they're like, I'm not going to buy anything else. I'm just going to stay with my Roland. It's working awesome.
Well, it's the price performance proposition, right? I mean, it really is about the same price of a print only device, and you get the cutter built in when you really look at it. I mean, it's maybe a fraction more, if that. Why wouldn't you want to have the same thing integrated and have that, available to you? So,
yeah, I like to see it when you have 3 print cut devices and 3 cutters. Hey.
Yeah, they're not even using the cutter feature, but then when they go to buy the next one, they still just buy the print and cut device. Just anyways, might as well, right? So I think that's interesting. But turning back to, we were talking about, you have roll-to-roll UV and then you have flatbed UV. Can we talk about the difference between those two? Because I think some people get that confused when they're looking for a UV printer and they don't know which option is which or which one works for them.
I'm glad you asked me that, Tyler.
It's almost like we got the questions ahead of time.
I just, these are just great questions. Well, it's all about the application once again, right? So roll to roll, if you're going to get a UV roll to roll printer, which prints and cuts, for example, it depends on your application. If I'm doing labels, that's certainly where I want to be, right? If I'm doing packaging comps, that's where I want to be. If I'm going to be doing, flat type applications, like let's say I'm doing architectural signage, or I'm doing, real estate signage, or, political signs. Well, that's a flatbed UV. So are we printing primarily on rigid substrates or pressure sensitive substrates? That's really what it comes down to.
Where do you see a lot of the UV labels kind of taking off? I know we've seen definitely a growth in people doing full custom stickers using the gloss for that. But what other markets, in terms of what customers, what our sign shops have that would be kind of ideal for a UV roll to roll?
Somebody who wants to get into labels would be good. Really, I see a lot of sign shops that do short-term POP type signage. And that UV roll-to-roll, like our MG or LG, is a perfect fit for that type of thing. So if you're doing shorter-term type products, certainly POP signage, that's ideal.
Makes sense. Kind of switching off of UV, we talked about if you're doing wraps, you said you can get the
Hey, real quick though, we'll go back to labels just for a second. If you're seeing it more and more, and I see it more in the workout type atmosphere, like all the new protein powders, all the new pre-workouts, all that kind of stuff. If you look at all those labels are UV printed now. They all have texture. They all have the brand I use is Axe and Sledge, and they have all UV labels. So you're seeing UV labels come across everything now, just about, compared to when you never saw them before. Nobody have a raised label.
Yeah, I'm seeing
3 years ago.
UV on wine labels.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff.
That's like a boutique run, right? Where you're doing a short run. Our technology is perfect for that.
Yeah, we put a machine in a bourbon place in Kentucky where they print all their labels, so they're raised and stuff like that. So
you're seeing it grow. I mean, you've seen in the episodes I've had Ghost energy drink cans sitting here, and those have UV labels on them too. So it's definitely growing. So if you notice your customers are doing more and more of that, or asking for more and more of that, it may be time to look at another option as well, right? They may already have an eco-solvent or resin option, and it may be time to add a UV to that mix.
Right, and really the big thing that Roland sees as a big opportunity, especially for of rigid substrates, is product personalization. That is just taking off and a big part of our business now, right? So let's say you're doing golf balls and you want to personalize them, maybe with a corporate logo or something that's personal to you, or pens or phone covers, phone cases sort of thing, and all kinds of different promotional items that just never ending array of different things you can print on, shot glasses, that type of thing. That's where it's really taken off for us.
You talked about another episode, like currently on Amazon you can purchase things customized on Amazon. Like that hasn't been a feature that's always been there, but it's relatively new. So you see even Amazon is pushing that way, meaning you're going to see more and more of it. And if you want to be a part of that, you're going to have to.
We said there's times I buy things because I'm like, wait, they can personalize this. How are they printing it? So you have to buy it because I want to look at it. I'm like, well, how do they do it?
Yep.
So like there's some of the stuff they personalize. Like, how are they possibly going to do that? And you look at them like, man, this was UV printed.
Yeah.
Like, and then I want to know how they print that corner.
Yeah.
What's the great thing about us is we really try to make it accessible, right? So yeah, we have, industrial level equipment. But we have entry-level equipment. Like we have this new printer called the BD8. It's $9,995. It's under $10,000, and it's a UV printer with a smaller bed. You can get into the game pretty affordably. So let's say I am a sign shop, and I'm selling signs to whoever, and maybe they need name badges. Maybe it's retail, right? You could get into doing the name badges for them and dip your feet into it and expand your business. That's what we're all about, is helping you start out and then expand into other directions with our technology. That's what the Roland Nation's all about, Tyler.
As someone who's in a marketing role, right, I can promise you that any company that you're doing signage for needs something that's UV printed. Like there's always some need for some show, or you're having an event for your own employees and you need stuff printed. And most of that is either apparel, which we can talk about later as well, or it's UV printed stuff. So I think if you're doing any type of corporate signage, which most signage honestly is in a way corporate signage, they probably need some UV printing capabilities. So if you're doing that, you probably can get into that game, and that's a good way to start, at least, and not be way expensive.
And we have entry-level options to get you into the game.
Yeah.
I found some weird, when you brought up that point of Amazon and how did they print it. Have you ever go to Etsy and you start looking at that stuff?
Domingo, I don't actually go to Etsy. Were you in Panera when you were on Etsy?
No, it's just interesting to find those things that are printed
you were having
on
a rose hip latte, weren't you?
Printed on wood and printed on different types of products. It's just like, what machine what do they have?
Yeah.
And it's like, how did they do that? So it's pretty interesting on some of the things. I've tested a lot of products on machines that fail, and because that's part of my job, but there's a lot of products that we could bring in that would be very interesting. But the thing is that the key? Is that going to sell in our industry? And a lot of things don't sell, but there's some things that I'm starting to see at shows that are starting to pop up that are pretty interesting now.
That brings us to a good point. This isn't even in the questions, but I'll ask anyways. Something we've been talking about, what we've been joking with you about, is DTF's the future, right? We see a new DTF printer.
I want to make something clear.
Okay, you can clarify.
DTF is not the future. I have never said that.
Yeah, you wanted that sign that said DTF is the future. We were going to put it in your office.
You know, I that brings up a good point about DTF. The question is how disruptive that is into the HTV market.
Good question.
So the
Domingo.
question is that going to be the future for the HTV?
And that you want me to answer that?
I would love to see your perspective on that.
I'm like the Nostradamus of the sign industry here. So
You've been in the industry 40 years.
Yeah, 40 years. So you should
it's
know.
definitely a disruptor, but you never really know with these things, right? But it appears to be a disruptor, right? We're seeing people switch from using heat transfer vinyl to DTF. A lot of the manufacturers are concerned, and they have to adapt. It's a disruptor. It remains to be seen. The big thing I've noticed is this thing came on, it almost forced itself into the industry, right? Because there's people integrating these. They'll get like a laser printer, and they'll jerry rig a solution and then offer it. And that was what was going on. There was no warranty, no manufacturer behind it, sort of thing. And it kind of, you'd go to these smaller shows and you'd see these things all over the place. So now you're seeing the manufacturers get involved, and it's almost like forcing itself into the industry. So we have a solution called the BY20 to get you into the game. It's a versus studio product. So you can dabble in basically do some, decent production. You just get started. And you'll see probably more products from major manufacturers from like Roland in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah, the reason I brought it up is, like I said, you see a new 10 printers at every show, right? And they're all a different label. They look like the same printer from the last show, different people behind it. So what we look for, like when we're partnering with equipment, right? There's a lot of vendors like in our space that will bring on new equipment, every 6 months from another vendor, versus we only carry a very limited amount of equipment vendors, right? There's not a lot that we're trying to bring on new all the time. And the reason for that is we want to be the one that stands behind the product as well, right? Obviously, we're leaning on Roland for Roland products to stand behind them, but we also want to be able to back them. So when we bring on a new piece of equipment, we're going to make sure that, hey, this is reliable. So if you say we didn't bring on a DTF printer for however long it's been out,
it's still I still have 17 companies that want
one more this morning. Literally
one more this morning. Exactly.
So I guess my advice to the user out there, Mr. User, that's you. Be careful, because you're buying some brand you've never heard of before, and they're coming. We're telling you, they come and go left and right. Be careful of what you buy, and you might want to stick to a major brand that's going to stand behind the equipment.
Yeah, if we don't carry it, it's probably a crappy brand. I mean, that's as simple as that. If we don't carry it, it's a crappy brand. I could say them, but Rick would have to beep them all out.
Yep. Yeah, we mentioned them in a different episode, but they already know the problem we had with them, so... Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but we want to have a special episode for episode 25, and we want to do Q&A. So if you have questions, send them to podcast@wensco.com. If you send them to that email, I'll get them. We'll go through them on the air. If it's anybody that's been on the podcast, any of my brothers, anyone you've seen, Domingo, Mike, anybody like that, welcome to send them in. If it's to somebody you even haven't seen on the podcast yet, but you have questions for them, we'll bring them on to answer your questions. So send them in. Again, podcast@wensco.com. You can also send them out on socials, or if you know if it's anywhere, if you have our phone numbers, emails, send them. I don't care where you send them, as long as they get to me, and we'll be happy to answer them live, potentially live, on episode 25. So send in your questions. Again, podcast@wensco.com. And now we'll get back to the episode. Switching off DTF, we talked earlier about vehicle wraps, and you said you could do it two different ways, right? So you can do it on EcoSolvent,
My
or you
opinion.
can do it on resin. What kind of is the difference between somebody who would pick a resin printer versus somebody who would pick an EcoSolvent printer?
Well, it's kind of, they're both great solutions, really. Latex, which, a lot of people ask, what's the difference between resin and latex? Here's the big answer: no difference. It's just a different name for the same thing. So I prefer to use the word latex because that's what everybody's familiar with. Yep. So, a lot of people are familiar with latex. It's great because you can laminate instantly. If you're doing vehicle wraps, it's not a bad solution. I love our AP640. Much better than Brand X for a lot of reasons. And you could easily output, basically a printer like that's just meant to just output that same media all day long in long runs. That's what's so great about that. A lot of people love Echo Solvent, though. There's a lot of advantages to Echo Solvent, the color gamut. With our VG3 series with orange and green ink, we're hitting 98% of Pantone color simulations. And, if you're doing vehicle wraps, you're often doing corporate vehicle wraps, and it's color critical. That's a pretty big deal. You talk to people that do wraps, there's a different technique for latex versus Echo Solvent, and there's a lot of subjectivity to that. Like, what do you prefer? That's my... I don't personally wrap, but that's for the people that I know that do wrap. That's what I hear.
Yeah, it's a different feel, but everybody either gets used to it. I mean, some people prefer one, some people prefer the other, some people don't prefer either one. But yeah, it's a different feel.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, from our side of things, what we see is people that are pushing primarily wrap shops. From what we see online, at least with people, and I guess you can tell me whether this is accurate or not. People that are primarily doing wraps, right? That's the whole purpose of your shop. That's the only thing you want to do. Most of them are going the latex resin route. Anyone that's doing a variety of signage is going the eco solvent route for the added benefits of color and just the complexity. Eco solvent is a little better in some applications, not talking about vehicle wraps, but other ones.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I see a lot of Eco Solvent shops. There's a lot of people in the Roland Nation that have Eco Solvent printers, and they do vehicle wraps, and that's all they do. I have a lot of users. I don't know the numbers, but I guess, there's certainly a lot of people in the latex world that do vehicle wraps as well. But
yeah, I think in terms of, if you look at ours, we're going to talk about it later too in terms of most popular products, but the most popular printer we put out in the market is the VG series, right? Just
VG3 series, yeah.
Right. VG3 currently, but
people love the color.
And the VG before that one. Like, we've put a lot of those in the field, even after we've showed them all the other solutions in the market. So I see a large push, like at least in the last 6 months, of people talking about latex and resin. And yet, like, when they come and see the solutions, I think people lean eco solvent for whatever reason when they come and see it.
Well, and then, that's, once you're a Roland user, not that I, want to kind of brag here, but once you're a Roland user, you get kind of addicted to Roland. We make it easy, right? We have our software RIP called VersaWorks, which is super easy to use, runs 4 Roland devices. Once you learn that software, you can pretty much run all our equipment. It's super easy. So once you're a Roland user, you want to stay a Roland user. It's just a matter of convenience. And the fact that we're offering all these different technologies with Roland technology in our RIP just makes it easy to just stick with us. So there's all these options. But, people that are existing Roland users have already used Eco Solvent. So a lot of times that's their first go-to, right? They're going to look at that. And they get turned on by the colors, and they end up buying a VG3.
So we haven't said their name, and we can choose later if we're going to beep it out later, but I'll say it anyways.
Brand
we
X?
got a comment on YouTube saying, "Hey, I wish you guys carried the HP 365." And I commented, "We have 2 different latex options available to you, so just switch over." So
time to change.
We've not been mentioning their name, but what we're saying is, if you have an HP latex and you're having issues, or you're looking to upgrade, or you're looking to switch, the resin option from Roland is going to be super familiar to you. Very similar ink technologies, except it's going to be in the Roland universe, which on our side,
there's so much better. It's so much better, and here's some of the reasons why. Brand X, which you're going to bleep, right? Brand X uses a thermal print head. We're using a piezo print head. So with a thermal print head, you have to change those ink cartridges every 4 to 6 sets of inks, according to the manufacturer. That's about every 2 months if you're a busy shop, if you're making money. So those print heads cost $120 each. Do the math. That's $720 every time, every 2 months. And if you extrapolate that to a 5-year life of the device, let's say, that's like over $20,000. $20,000 you would never have to pay on a Roland with a permanent piezo print head. And another problem is with thermal print heads, they have a problem with color consistency because they shift really fast. So let's say you did a wrap and you have to change a panel a few months later. It's kind of a moving target. Where with a piezo based latex printer, it's going to be stable. You're going to be able to hit that color consistently.
I think what we've seen too, just on their side of things, is even complaints we see. Obviously, we don't sell that brand anyways. But what we see is people complaining about banding issues on the printer, and what a lot of the times that comes down to, or at least what it seems like, is that they're trying to push those print heads as far as they can before they swap them.
Well, what happens is a lot of people don't want to, they get hit with that $720 bill every 2 months, and they're just saying, "Oh, I talk to end users that use brand X. It's like, oh yeah, it still looks good to me," and they just keep trying to push and squeeze those print heads, and I think it's just kind of the thing where you look at it every day and you don't realize how fast it's decaying.
Correct.
So
yeah, the other side you don't talk about too is it's it's the wrong color at this point. Like you've pushed them so long that like now you just did a 5 vehicle fleet that was not the right color, and we see that happen often also.
Especially if you're doing a lot of the same fleet, right? You're doing a fleet, and then 3 months later you're doing the same fleet again. 3 months later you're doing the same one again. Or if they're sending you like one truck and one truck and one truck, when you print it, it's gonna look good. The problem is when they park them in the parking lot right next to each other, especially if you're doing like a solid color, right? You're doing like a Coca-Cola van, let's say, for example, and they're just red.
Right.
When you park them in the parking lot next to each other, they're not going to be the same red next to each other.
That's not good.
So
that is not good.
That would be, if you're running into that issue, you should probably look at another solution.
Yeah, and they all, every corporate has your color needs to be between this color and this color. Who really checks it? Nobody really checks it. Should they? Yes, I think they absolutely should. Like if you're Coca-Cola or whatever, it's like, no, that's not within my red. Send it back.
It'd be awesome if there was a device that did that.
I have something for you.
Whoa.
What?
It's funny
You got
you
a new
mentioned
toy
this.
for
This
us?
is so weird that you mentioned it. What a
I know,
coincidence.
it's crazy.
No, one of my buddies was
He's giving us a new toy? Is that what I'm hearing?
I guess we got something
All
new.
right, let's check this out.
I'm betting this is something that IT
supplies.
IT
supplies probably doesn't have.
They don't
I don't know.
They don't have it.
They do have one, probably.
It supplies.
Yeah, I don't know those guys.
It supplies.
No, this is kind of cool. One of my buddies. I'm
Paste it towards this camera right here.
Yeah, I don't even know. I haven't used it yet. It's called the Nix. It's a $99
Hey, Vera
color
White,
measuring
can you hold
device.
that up, please? I need a hand on the bottom too. Thank you.
There you go.
I'm not plugging it. I don't even know how well it works. I just bought this on Amazon the other day. I haven't even unwrapped it. It's still in the wrapper. So next few days, when I have time, I was going to figure out what this is all about.
Apparently
So
we got to buy one.
Yeah, probably not.
Joe's giving that.
why don't we do an
to us as a
unboxing in a
gift.
future episode, Tyler?
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we can try
Roland.
it.
Here we go.
Thank you, Roland, for the gift. We appreciate it.
It's not even
I'm not plugging it. I don't know. I honestly don't know how great it is, but one of my friends in the business told me, wow, this thing's pretty incredible for $99.
Yeah, I just think more colors should be tested. Like we actually have a color gamut on our red and yellow flags. They should be tested. We should look at them like, yes, those are the correct colors, because you don't know. Like, and especially when you're talking about what machine was it printed on, how long ago did you print on it? Like, they should test it.
And for us, being the kings of Y format color, which we are, that's something that's really kind of a neat thing to have, just to make sure you're on the money and on the target.
Yeah, you can show to your customers too, to say like, hey, we printed it and tested it, and it's within your Pantone spec that you're looking for. So just know that not only are we,
or
trying to
maybe
get it,
if I
we're
was a
testing to
sign
make
shop,
sure.
you could actually demonstrate, hey, Mr. Customer, I hit your color. Look, boom, this is actually your measurement.
It's just another way to kind of level up from your competitors versus them just printing it like they were doing on the X brand.
Yeah, it's so
printer.
funny you mentioned that, because I just bought that the other day.
It's crazy. It's almost like we planned it ahead of time.
But I
I wasn't actually thinking about it, and all of a sudden I was, I must have. See, that's just how good I am sometimes at this. I just
That's
flew
perfect.
out of me.
Yeah, it's like we're mind melting.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
It's just like planting the questions in your head ahead of time. You just automatically lead to them. But that kind of goes over, I think, most of our discussion in terms of what to look for when you're looking at new equipment. So we'll kind of transition here to stuff from Roland. Roland released a lot of new equipment in the last.
Well, are we going to talk about
12 months.
food? Are we going to talk about food too at one point? Or I know
Sure.
you guys like to talk about food.
Sure.
Okay.
We can do it. We'll do it in the outro.
Okay, we could.
Sounds good. I do have questions because
Okay.
you were just in the land of the greatest food that is imaginable.
Right.
So
I was in
I'll have some
Italy. I was in
questions.
Sicily
I'll have
for
some
about 10
questions
days.
about that, but
Yes, went to the motherland, Domingo.
Did you eat pizza with a fork?
No.
I heard that's
I
very rude.
discovered, the pizza's so great, right? It's like, what's going on? The bread's so incredible. What's going on here? This is like, there's something going on here. And you talk to the chefs, it's like they have a whole different type of flour they use. They have like 20 different kinds of flour depending on the pasta or the bread or whatever it is. Just amazing. Anyway, yeah.
Do you think
Joe got
the
stopped
pizza
at-
that I get, like DiGiorno's and Jack's
that's not
Pizza,
happening in
use
Sicily,
different flour?
believe me.
They have the same flour
The Italian flour for sure. It's funny
because they all. I don't. I mean,
Joe got
what about Pizza Hut?
Joe got stopped at TSA because he had 50 pounds of a white substance.
Yeah, he had it all
what's this-
prepackaged.
what's this brick you got here, sir?
I actually got stopped because I had olive oil.
Oh,
For real.
Yeah, you can't do
So
that.
I had one of my friends, they have some land, they all have a little land, and they have like olive trees on the land, right? And he's telling me, oh yeah, in Italian, of course. Yeah, we get about 100 bottles a year. What? 1 liter bottles of your own olive oil, and I guess every town has a place where they press the olive oil, and it's no big deal. Everybody brings their olives in, and
like a community.
like a community olive oil
That's
press.
crazy.
So had a couple of homemade olive oil bottles, which was kind of weird, but I brought it back. So anyway, enough of food. I just thought you had some good revelations of anything new you've done lately.
We really love food, but we haven't had anything good like that in a while.
Okay.
So.
No.
Should we have chili dogs today?
You said that this morning, and I think, I'm in.
I got my
It's
white
our
pants
fancy-
on though.
Now, in Detroit, we're known for the Coney dogs. That's our thing, right? Every place has their thing. Is that here in Western Michigan?
No, listen.
We do have
Yesterdog
Yesterdog.
is the place to go.
Okay.
But the second best place to go is Mr. Burger or a filling station. What is it called now?
Filling state. No, Mr.
Mr.
Burger.
Burger.
Is it Mr.
Yeah.
Burger now? But Yesterdog, everybody, Yesterdog. I worked there when I was younger. Tyler was.
Did you? You worked at Yesterdog?
I was managing Yesterdog when Tyler was born.
Okay.
I'm on the wall as like I don't know how old I am.
You're an icon on the wall over there.
I'm like
probably.
6 years old. Like literally right when you walk in there, I'm there on the wall as a 6-year-old.
I think I noticed you when I walked in there every time.
I'm a lot thinner in that picture. So anyways, Yesterdog or Mr. Burger if you're coming here for food. We're a real cheap date. If any other vendors want to come in and take us to lunch, we're not picky. So it'd be real cheap in and out.
Who were we with that took us out? Someone took us out, and I think there was
Doug.
4 of us, and bill came to $63.
Yeah, it was Doug
4 of us.
from-
It's like
Doug from G2G spent $60 on.
he looked
5
at the
Wensco
lady
people.
like she gave him the wrong number. Like, no, that's
so
where we
cheap.
are.
That's funny.
So that's that's the food we have here. Nothing.
I
like
always
this
try to
food in
take you
Italy.
out someplace weird whenever we're on the road, right?
You do. Well, I still talk about what's the place in Chicago we always go to. This is a shout out to Chicago food.
Where did I take you in Chicago?
The real dark steak
Yeah.
restaurant.
Oh, Gibson's, you mean? I
Yeah.
never took you
Yeah.
there, but that's
I
a
think
great
so.
place.
It was Gibson's, right? It looks like a bar.
Yeah.
On the outside.
Yeah, yeah.
So I tell people the steak sandwich appetizer that's at that place. I literally talk about it every year until we go back to Dax and I can try it again. Now it's been 2 years though, so I'll probably have to just go
Johnson?
there. Yeah. I'm there in like 3 weeks. I'm just going to be at Gibson's by myself, just ordering 2 appetizers of steak sandwiches.
So when you're in Chicago next, they have a dish, right? Every place has a dish, right? So I'm a foodie. I love trying different things. Chicken Vesuvio. If you've never had chicken Vesuvio, next time
I can't
you're in
even say it.
Yeah,
chicken Vesuvio. It's hard to make, and it's kind of a garlicky lemon type thing. That's like a Chicago thing. So to all you Chicago people, I'm spreading the word about chicken Vesuvio.
Sweet. We'll have to try it. I don't know.
I'm up for anything.
I don't think they serve it at Wendy's though.
No,
Think Mr. Burger has it?
You can ask.
you got to go to Chicago for that.
No. We'll wrap this up kind of with a little plug towards Roland, I guess, towards the end. So, what new stuff do you guys have coming or recently come out with?
Well, we got a lot
talk
of new,
about, I guess.
lot of new products about to drop here, Tyler. But I can't tell you because I'm sworn to secrecy. But we've just come out with a lot of new products. For example, the brand new EU 1000 MF flatbed printer. You heard about that, right?
The MFer?
The MFer. There's 2 versions. There's the 4-color version for $74,995, and there's a 6-color version for $79,995 with a 4x8 bed. It has almost a 4-inch Z-axis. It's a great board printer. You're going to do about 6 to 9 boards an hour. Ink's only $99 a liter, which is pretty industry leading in terms of cost efficiency. And the cool thing is, it's going to be a product that we run with our VersaWorks RIP around July. So if you're part of the Roland Nation, you want to add this on because it's going to be part of your workflow. Another cool product we just came out with is the MO 240 Versa Object. That's $24,995. Very interesting printer. So we had a previous version called the LEF2 Versa UV, right? They tore up the blueprints and came up with a whole new device, and it's pretty impressive. One cool thing is, what size should we do the bed? And they did a lot of research, and they came up with 18 by 24. Nobody has an 18 by 24 inch bed.
Needed that.
It just seemed like such a no-brainer on the last one. It was so close.
Not that you want to, if you're doing high production on an 18 by 24 inch real estate signs, you're going to want a bigger flatbed. Correct. But for a benchtop device.
Well, that's what size your blanks are. You always had to cut your blanks. Like
right.
Most of your blanks are, like the biggest blank you're going to get is 1824. Like, why make it 2 inches
even
shorter?
If you were printing on something, like even we were joking that like aluminum, we're like literally having to slice it down to put it on the flatbeds to print on them for shows, like versus just putting a blank on
So
there.
how practical is that? 18 by 24 inch. Nobody else is doing that. And this thing prints so fast because we have an industrial print head on it. We're printing in unidirectional mode only, but we're beating our old bidirectional speeds. So unidirectional is like the best quality, and to print that fast at that quality, that's like having your cake and eating it too. An expanded gamut. So now this has orange and red ink. So you're hitting around 88% of Pantone color simulations. That's a game changer. So expanded gamut, this great bed size. It has an 8-inch Z axis. So if you're going to put in an object, that's why we call it Versa Object. It has that ability. Very cool. It's once you dive into all the features in this thing, it's pretty amazing. It even has 7 cleaning modes. 6 of them are automatic. So this thing cleans itself more than my cat at home. So
we did see it at ISA.
Yes,
we did get a chance to watch it run, and it is cool because it looks like it's printing bidirectional, but it's not speed because it's printing at a speed you would think it's going back and forth, but instead it's just printing the one direction, but fast enough that you wouldn't notice unless you told us, which is great because I think a lot of people like that had the LEFs before were already printing it in unidirectional to get that better quality that they wanted, right. Especially when they were dealing with like 3-dimensional objects, right? Like if you were talking about golf balls, like you were only printing that in unidirectional. That was the only option. And now you're locked to that, which may sound like a con, but the reality is it's faster anyways. So
what was the product manager's name for that showed us that? Do you remember?
Dave Hawks. Great guy.
Dave Hawks, listen, I'm stupid. You could have dialed it down. He was going into all the specifics.
I'm like, thinking geeky,
Oh yeah,
he knows his stuff.
He was way above me at that one. I'm like, listen,
they know their stuff. They really do. And another new product is the BD8. It's a little brother. If you just want to get into the game, the BD8 versus Studio for $9,995. I mentioned that to you. It has a smaller bed. I think it's 30 inches by 20 inches, roughly. But for that price point, and you talked about DTF, we have the new BY20 versus Studio. That's about $8,495 to get you into the game. And the new BN2 series. I don't know if you've seen the BN2 series versus Studio, which is a big improvement over our BN products. It's really like, remember the old VersaCams? It's like a little baby VersaCam. It's really that sophisticated.
They look nice. My only problem with the BN2 is that BN220 is way too difficult to remember every time. You have to slow down. BN220. The twos next to each other, I think, just bothers me every time. But we've seen that one.
Doesn't roll off your tongue quite as slick.
BN20 was smooth, and then BN220 is. Yeah. Now that I've said it 1,000 times, it's pretty easy. But
BN220.
I see it the first time, it's confusing, but it's definitely an upgrade to the BN20, which you guys sold a lot of. So
it's like a light year upgrade. I mean, it's like, wow, this is a baby VersaCam.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a lot of people in the field that already have the BN20. So if you're running into, needing more production out of it and you still don't want to go the full 54 route, the BN220 is a good option there. But
so those are some recent products, but there's a lot coming. Like I said, I can't tell you about it, but a lot this year. You'll see a lot of interesting products being released this year. We're on a roll. R&D at Roland they're nuts.
Yeah. Well, I know that we were talking about the show, and the word that we were hearing was sustainable. Sustainable products, coming out. How is Roland working with that? Are they doing any changes to make an environmental safe products, those kind of things?
Well, one thing we did recently, our cartridges, we're switching over from a plastic cartridge to a paper cartridge, a cardboard cartridge that's just a stable in an effort to save our planet.
There you go.
But yes, we have that. and Green Guard Gold certified ink for safety. Those are some of the things that I would, off the top of my head, tell you about sustainability.
That's awesome.
Otherwise, we talked about in terms of our side of things, the VG3 being the most popular printer that we send out of here. There was literally 2 in a box, like last Friday when I came in here. Would you say are Roland's most popular products? If somebody is new to Roland, they want to look at some options that would already fit into an existing sign shop, what should they start looking at?
You said the VG3 series, very popular because it prints and cuts. We're getting expanded gamut with orange and green ink, 98% of, Pantone colors. LG series has really been taken off. That's a print and cut device with orange and red ink, where we're still getting expanded gamut with UV curable ink. I would say our MO240 is a big hit. As a matter of fact, right now people are kind of waiting because we're getting orders faster than we can make the printers come in. So that's a pretty hot product. And of course our BN2 series is pretty hot right now. So those are the most popular, I would say.
Kind of covers the whole gamut too. So BN2 if you're looking for a more affordable entry level, VG3 if you're looking for production, 54, 60 inch option, and then UV flatbed options as well. So that kind of covers all of them. But the last question I had for you is kind of what do you think, if you had to summarize it, what sets Roland apart from its competitors?
Really, it's just having all the solutions with different ink technologies and ease of use. And also really how we run our channel. So we really want a value-added channel that's going to provide service and support and have that ongoing relationship with the customer. That's a big deal to us. There's a lot of sign supply distributors out there, big box movers, and they really aren't holding the hand of the customer. And we just don't want to do business with, people that are just selling a commodity. We want to do business with dealers that really provide that after sales support. So we're kind of picky about our dealer channel, to be honest. You just can't fog a mirror and be a Roland dealer. You really have a little bit higher criteria to be a Roland dealer because of that. So service is the big thing. Ease of use is another big mantra.
So why did you guys pick Wensco in your
great service department? That was one of the reasons. I mean, I've been dealing with you guys the whole time I've been at Roland. So you developed into a really great service department. That's really one of the big things. And, you give customers choices, right? So we love working with you guys.
What's been cool from our side is because we've been Roland dealers so long, like you said, when you were talking about X brand earlier and how much that costs over the course of 5 years, and people are like, 5 years, am I going to really have it for 5 years? We've seen people that have Rolands for an unbelievable amount of time, and you can get them back and you can literally see, one of the stats is like print head fires. I can't remember what the exact stat is, but how many times ink comes out of the print head and you guys rate them for a certain amount. It's in like the millions. We had some that are like come back 10x over what the recommended is for a print head.
One of the testaments of our reliability really are, if you look on the market, there's a probably the biggest used sign equipment market because the product doesn't break. It's easy to fix. So you see there's a lot of used Roland gear out there in the industry. I don't see a lot of brand X or Y or Z.
We buy used equipment. We only buy, or we only even get offered because it's still running, is Roland and then some Graphtex. But for the most part, the other brands that we sell,
we don't get them used.
We don't get them used because they're not, by the time that they're moving, they're not running. And
it's not me saying it. It's the reality out
look
there.
at eBay and look at used printer, and you're going to find that 99% of them are Rolands.
Well, so what does that tell you? If that's the case out there, right? So if you're going to buy a product, you want something that's going to last. I go to trade shows. It's funny. We want to sell printers, right? So, but we want to sell new printers. I go to trade shows. I can't even tell you how many times I get our valued Roland Nation users come up to me and say, hey, they brag, I've had my Roland for 12 years. I've had my Roland for 9 years. It's like, great.
Time for a new one.
Time for an upgrade. Think you want to get a new one?
Trade it in.
If they're not ready to do it, that's fine. I mean, they don't break that easily. I mean, they're really built to last.
Even literally 12 months ago, we were selling used XC 540s, which I believe came out in like 2009, 10.
Yeah. Built like a tank.
So we were selling 15-year-old running printer. We ran them here and they ran great.
That's not happening with brand X, Y, or Z. Sorry.
I mean, we only sell used Roland.
Listen, we got to try to wrap this up. Rick's been
Yes.
yelling at us for like 15 minutes now.
Oh, we're having
wrap
too
this
much
up.
fun
The
here,
only thing
guys.
I want to add, if I have the scheduling right, this should come out June 24th.
Okay.
And the Grand Rapids demo day is June 28th.
Uh-oh.
So
Okay.
if we did it right and you hear this on Monday, you're in anywhere in the Midwest, I guess, and you're interested in seeing what equipment we have available, June 28th, Grand Rapids, demo day.
What it's worth, I'll be here in front of Roland Gear to show you personally, Mr. Customer, if you'd like to see what we can do.
So please come. Please.
Absolutely. You're going to be there, right, Domingo?
I will be here.
Fantastic.
So I think that pretty much wraps it up. Joe, do you want to give us the outro as good as the intro was?
Yeah.
And now... No, I don't think I can top it. I'm sorry. Don't ask me to do
He
that.
doesn't want us to be disappointed. Well, thanks for watching, Joe. Again,
All right. Thanks for
coming
inviting
out.
me to
We
the show.
appreciate
It's
it.
been
Domingo,
an
Thanks for the
honor.
gift too,
Domingo,
Joe.
I'm glad
Absolutely.
I'm glad you could join us.
You
I
know,
you've been
I'm glad
avoiding us for
yeah,
like
I'm
17
glad.
weeks, but
Well, you know, gotta work.
that's
right?
true.
No,
Well, some of us
it's
have
good to be
record
back. It's good to be
podcasts, so
back.
Fantastic.
We appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully it was useful to you.
See ya.
See you in the next.
Ciao.